In the Hearts and Minds, Book 0, The Birth of a Hero. Story 9, She Sees Ghosts. The baker girl had no qualms about walking along the vilest streets and alleys while holding Iago's hand. She had no qualms about crossing a street wearing a bloody, battered apron that showed the singes at the ends of her hair and the burned oil painting of wounds scalded across her back. Iago felt the baker girl wore her floppy hat like a bunny wore its long ears. She only tucked the thing back above her ashy brows one time, uncaring the rest of their walk, when it collided with her eyelashes and made her tilt her head upwards, like a child. Did she even know how to walk in shoes that tall? What kind of baker needed wedges? Iago didn't know why he didn't tell her that she didn't need to follow him anymore. Nobody with a working soul traveled these parts before dusk. The constables would still be preoccupied, staring at the holes in the building they'd fled, and trying, while also failing, to find their tracks. Maybe they could catch a stray footprint, but the odd wedge of a heel couldn't be followed very far without seeing the striations of a broom-like trail, as if the fugitives had been followed by a team of artillery maids. Little did they know, Iago would make a dashing maid, with the help of all his little friends. The Senecio Rowleyanus, whom Iago called Rowley, and his unfortunate teammates dubbed Anus, had already staked a claim to this weird girl who miraculously hadn't exploded upon impact when his pursuers finally caught up to him. The little thing had crawled out from the vein on his right forearm and wrapped around her wrist, once, twice, stretching even a third and fourth, until Iago was certain the succulent had decided to kill her. But no, her wrist was just that small. Iago didn't understand why his vocal cords had stopped working. He would blame the sedum morganium, burrow, that lived wrapped like a necklace about his clavicle, but as of yet, the plant had not stopped his ability to speak. He needed to lose this girl before more plants grabbed hold of her, or before he'd made it back to base. But both possibilities were now aligned on a collision course he didn't know how to stop. What had happened to his voice? His first plant, Senecio peregrinus, aka Dolphin, had crawled from the place between his toes, moving over sensitive and somewhat ticklish territory, until it crept over his ear, peeking every now and again around his brow to see the bouncing girl. The bouncing girl. Was she just a girl? I know, she said, and Iago's heart leapt to his throat. Just because nobody was out and about didn't mean they weren't just around each shadowy corner. Well, if he kills me, would you please take care of Biscuit? Iago blinked, and blinked again. Was Dolphin affecting his hearing now? You know Biscuit can see you, Miss Y. You know he spotted you in the mirror that one time. Don't pretend just because you hate cats. That's not nice. Iago picked up his pace, growing increasingly worried about the hand clawing at his own. She'd twined their fingers together. He felt flakes of her skin, roughened in the blast, slough away into their joined palms, mixing with the blood gushing from somewhere above his wrist. The sweat and friction caused a sticky mess, but her skinny, tiny fingers were still cold. Iago assumed this was what it felt like to hold hands with a spider. The panic moved into his chest, working down from his throat like a giant lump of doughy bread. He couldn't swallow. He could barely breathe. He couldn't remember if they'd already walked past this lamppost. If we walk by the lamppost again, I'll tell him, the girl whispered to something on her left. It seems rude to suddenly take charge. He sounded so confident earlier. What had he done wrong? Iago wondered how he'd missed it. Truvia's X-Squad, X for blasting heads off the freaking map, had gotten wind of him. The stupid fools he ran with had outed him. He had no doubt about it. He knew they shouldn't have gone to the sugar market and celebrated with 3 meat and cheese pies. It didn't matter that they were in the restricted under-the-counter area. The constables patrolled those areas regularly. What had they been thinking? Pepper. It had to have been Pepper with his ugly mustache. They were meant to blend in, to recede into the shadows. Well, not when he curled and kinked and colored the unsanitary hairs growing beneath his nose. No, it could have been Arlie. Was Arlie even on their side? When was the last time they'd said anything other than, "Shut up or I'll fork you"? They'd even said it to Granny's little one just last week for walking by while bouncing their ball on the cobbles. "I don't care that his hair is orange," the crazy baker girl continued. Iago's breathing whistled through his teeth now. Dolphin went to pet his stubbly cheek, and the sensation gave him a full-body chill. All he could do was shake his head back and forth, wishing the damn plants would do as he wanted for once. Just read his mind. This lady's crazy. She's crazy. We have to let go. Let go. He dodged one assassin, quite excellently, despite the holes in that building. But now here was another, and she was playing with his delicate sensibilities. How did she know he'd never held hands with a woman before? Was this pity before she stuffed him with a fork? Dolphin wove down and around his leg, lifting the hair there in a painful scrape. There was no getting through to Rowley, not when it had grown so attached to the girl. Literally. He had to stop. Their base was just ahead. He had to stop and take one for the team. Well, did he have to, though? Wouldn't Arlie be able to deal with the assassin a lot faster than he could? "How did you not blow up?" he asked, stopping abruptly. Finally, his voice worked. The baker's momentum carried him until he was digging his toes into his boots, waffling in the air, moments from toppling onto his face, but he succeeded in staying put. "How are you even alive? Why go so far just to catch me?" The girl glared at him through the floppy hat sitting on her eyelashes. She was a slight thing, so tiny, with big hair and even bigger eyes. Iago breathed wrong, coughing to make up the depletion of air in his lungs. She tilted her head, showing him a whole cheek that was missing its top layer of skin. For some reason, he didn't spare it more than a glance before returning to her giant eyes. Maybe she hypnotized her victims to death? Was she, like him, but on their side, part of the X-Squad? "They warned me you were coming," she said slowly, obviously, carefully. "Didn't you follow them to me?" Follow? Iago didn't. Follow, that was. Them. She pointed with her chin, but the point was to empty space. Did she mean someone hiding in one of the mostly abandoned shacks? Here, where the streetlights only worked on days that didn't end in Y, where the property taxes were not paid, in any amount, to any official government office. Iago couldn't tell if they were alone. He didn't see anyone, didn't smell any clouds of BO where someone had recently been. His instincts had become confused at the same time as his heart, so, really, he couldn't tell. He'd been thrown into this whole resistance thing because it had literally been a choice of fight or die. He wasn't cut out for it, any of it. "If you've got your snipers trained on me, then just do it," he shouted, ripping their hands apart and cutting clean through Rowley's vine. It hurt him worse than it would ever hurt the stupid plant, and the vein from which the plant had burst gave a quiet explosion. Blood gushed down his arm. It dripped to the ground. That burns. The baker girl stared at the vine, wriggling its death throes in her spider hand. "What is this?" She proffered the vine to the air beside her, wriggling her shoulders like she was bending down a bit. Iago couldn't take this anymore. He could not take this. He began, when the girl's eyes flickered from the plant in her hand to him. You can't see them? She asked. Iago stared, trapped by the giant eyes with the smushed lashes. She tilted her head, and the hat drooped fully. The change in momentum released her eyelashes, making her big eyes even bigger. Unreal. He had never seen eyes so round. Well? Iago swallowed, his bloody arm pulsing in a most violent manner. What was the question again? Can you... She stepped closer. See them? At the end of his wits, he was just about to spontaneously die or tell her he loved her when the calm, motherly tone of Flora called out from the direction of the base. Iago, everything all right out there?